Good evening. Whoa, man. We are excited. The Congressman Rangel is on his way. Unfortunately, he's running a little bit behind. He had three different events all the way down to City Hall and a bunch of other places. So he has called. He is on his way. He will once he shows up, we just hand him the mic, and that's how that's going to work. But it's a great pleasure to welcome everyone here. And most of you, or maybe some of you, have been here before in terms of Madiba Harlem, but let me say that this is truly a wonderful place for us to host our events, but more importantly, it's a wonderful place for you to host your events. So if you have plans for any type of production, this is the place to do it. They are extremely helpful. You can see that there are three theaters, or you can kind of see the two. There's a third one beyond this wall. These walls are also soundproof. So you can literally have three events running at the same time, and we've done that many times. But more importantly is we want to show that Uptown can host these type of events. You don't always have to go downtown or in Midtown to have a quality event. This is a quality facility. It's a smart and green building, one of the best buildings in New York City, and it's state of the art. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that this was this is the place to host your events, to meet up. You've already seen the bar scene, which is really a lot of fun, and the restaurant, which is a South African cuisine, is absolutely delicious. So let me acknowledge a couple of things quickly here. Tonight we are doing this tech talk. And we're going to be introducing Harrison Shih, who is a phenomenal entrepreneur and has a great software application, and he'll tell you more about that, so we're going to get into that. But I also want to introduce my co-founder, Bruce Lincoln, who is, of course, my co-founder. Yeah, give him a hand. You know, he deserves it. And tonight is also special because we've partnered with our friends at hashtag BB Digital, which is really focused on helping young people get exposure, really help them with their ideas and their creativity. And the team includes Michelle Mateer, who's over here. I don't know where Darren and Impress are, but they are the ones that curated the web series tonight. So if you are here for that, or if you didn't know about it, right after our tech talk, we are going to be showing a few newly developed web series that they have curated for tonight. And following that is a panel discussion. So it's a really interesting evening tonight, and I think you'll have a good time. Just very quickly also, on our calendar, if you're following some of the things that we're doing, we're going to be doing what we call an Appy Hour in June. You'll get more information about that. The Appy Hour is going to happen at Team's co-working space. And this year, for the first time, how many people have ever been to Harlem Week? All right. So we have worked with them to create a tech layer to Harlem Week. So there's going to be a series of events that Silicon Harlem is co-producing with Harlem Week, with the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, to bring in technology into all the other activities that happen during that time frame. So it kicks off on July 26th. If you know, it usually happens at Grant's Tomb. That's where it will happen again this year. We've got tech exhibits that will be set up in and around the park. So a lot of activity, and certainly mark your calendars for October 16th. That's when we'll be having the Silicon Harlem second annual conference. So we're excited about that. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Harrison Shih, or I'll have him actually introduce himself, tell us a little bit about your background as well as your company, and of course your software. And we're trying to hold off on our big announcement with Rangel until he gets here, but that will be all based on time. Okay, so let's go, Harrison.
All right, thank you. So first of all, thanks for having me here. I think this is, it's an amazing venue, and the energy here has been really, really cool. Clayton and Bruce have been talking a lot about this community, and what you guys are doing here, I think, is phenomenal. And I can share a little bit about my background, but my main interest here is that I want to see what the kind of entrepreneurial spirit here can be, and what I can do, and what Frankly can do to help to facilitate that. And so my background is always been in tech, and I've worked out in Silicon Valley for a while. And so I was back at Google when I worked on our enterprise business and helped facilitate an ecosystem around the Google Apps marketplace, as well as launch a thing called the Google Cloud Platform. And in that world, I got to see so many startups and an ecosystem form in which technology and disruption can happen so much faster, because the infrastructure, the platform as a service, the infrastructure as a service is available. And from there, I went on to be on the core launch team for Google+. As you guys might know, at the peak of kind of this social craze around Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of that has shaped how we see the world today.
Now, hold on 1 second, Harris. Let me see if I heard you correctly. Anybody catch what he said? That he launched Google Plus? Hey, there we go. Did you say you helped launch Google Plus?
I did. So, and I'll explain why
that's pretty big.
Yeah, right. Google Plus was an amazing product, and we learned a lot from that launch. I'm sure a lot of you followed what we did. It was a really good show in the power of something like social. I owned kind of our celebrity influencer events, partnerships, kind of entrance into the market. And what we saw was that this was at the height of syndicated content, where social networks like Facebook and Twitter were getting free content from the Nikes of the world, or the McDonald's, or the Vanity Fairs. All of the places where content used to be king. At that place, we grew enormously. One was our brand, but another one was our strategy around aggregating syndicated content from all of these fan bases. Right? And so what we did was the first 500 celebrities. We wrote a strategy to bring them on, 90 of the top 100 brands. And we grew like hotcakes. Right? Everyone, I think, might know we grew 10 million users in 10 days. We crossed the 100 million barrier by the end of the year in less than half a year. And we did all of that. A big reason was because the content was there.
Now, this is the last time I'm going to interrupt you. But did you say 10 million users in 10 days?
Yeah, I believe we were the fastest growing app in history. Maybe the fastest growing anything.
Wow.
A big part of that was Google's brand's amazing, and everyone knows what they've done. But from there, the experience is that things are changing even faster than what Facebook did to us, right? What Google did to us in the beginning is that from there I saw what gaming was doing and moved into the largest mobile gaming company in the world at the time, Gree. Where I ran kind of a platform strategy to bring gaming globally, a social layer on top of gaming. And this is a company that, if you guys know anything about social gaming, a lot of money gets generated in. I think revenues were about $1.5 billion on virtual goods sales during the year that I was there. And in the US, we did about $200 million. And so what's really interesting is the evolution of what Google and Facebook did was on web, and that transition to mobile was something that happened so quickly that everyone kind of lost their minds on it, and people still haven't caught up to what that means. And so that's a lot of what Frankly is about. And so my current company is Frankly. We were founded about 2.5 years ago, backed by the largest telecom in South Korea, SK Telecom. And so they put in a large seed round to help facilitate the disruption of messaging in North America. And a lot of you here, I'm sure, understand why that was an important thing. For a company as dominant as SK Telecom. If you look out to the east, how messaging has become the medium on mobile. And everyone knows that mobile is the medium of interaction, period.
Now, wait a minute. I know I said I wasn't going to interrupt you. But you said a large something. Are you at liberty to tell us what that large amount of money was?
They put in a $6 million seed round to help support us. And since then, the company has picked up funding from Stanford as well. And we were fortunate enough with our kind of new business model I'll tell you guys about to go public in January in Toronto. And so in all, we've been really lucky to raise almost $50 million, which has helped facilitate us to fight this fight in a world in which it's maybe the most interesting thing is that this industry that didn't exist 6 years ago, in the last half a decade, has seen the birth of half a dozen $10+ billion companies. Right? Snapchat at $15 billion didn't exist 6 years ago. And that's the type of interaction that happens when you find a native point on something like mobile. And so we see mobile as the future, as I think everyone sees now. The numbers are amazing. With more than 50% of all time spent on internet right now is done on a mobile device. You know, we still have brands out there that are trying to figure out how to launch their website and do SEO and drive traffic over there. And now people are catching up, they think, and making responsive websites that just work on a mobile phone. Of that, more than 50% of time spent on the internet on mobile, 10% of that is spent in your mobile browser. 90% of that is spent inside of an app. And so we're talking about an engagement model that's rapidly changed over the last decade or half decade, and everyone's still scurrying to adapt to that. And so what we see today is that messaging is that dominant thing. If you aggregate all the stats on frequency and engagement, messaging is that thing in the top right quadrant that no one else is at. If you look at frequency of number of times you launch an app during the day and how frequently and retentive that app can be for you over a 90-day period, communication apps or messaging apps are by far and away the thing that dominates the mobile phone. And the reason is because it's in your pocket, right? It's the thing that pulls you in. It's informal. You can just send a text and say, oh, okay. You don't have to write a long paragraph explaining your answer. It's immediate. It just kind of shows up on your phone. There's a push notification, and so it's right there, right then. And it's intimate, right? It's something, it's the other person on that side has sent that to you from their mobile device, something that they keep in their pocket. And so messaging we see as that fundamentally unique thing. And so Frankly Chat was started as another messaging app to try to disrupt that space, and we were in ephemeral texting. And what we found through this is that, one, messaging is enormous, and then two, it's an incredibly crowded space, right? Just a couple of years ago, myself included, we were pushing brands to build stuff on Google Plus or on Facebook and Twitter. Today it's Snapchat and Line and KakaoTalk, right? All of these evolutions of you have to do the next big thing. And so what we saw is instead of constantly outsourcing your social community, right, where content used to be king, and the medium like Facebook said, give me that content for free, let my users use it on my platform, let me retain their data, and be the one that owns that social community, was the model that has kind of exploded over the last couple of years. We said, instead of that, let's be the messaging technology that allows everyone to have that power inside of their own app. And so we took the technology that we had with a couple million users on it, and we productized it into an SDK. So we made it into a platform and white labeled it so that anyone could have messaging inside of their own apps. Mary Meeker is kind of the guru on the internet, just released her report a couple of days ago, and she had in there that every single app will need push notifications and messaging. That's fundamentally true. This is something that you need at some point to own the fan engagement and the community engagement that you have on your own property. And so we launched with Victoria's Secret back in November and powered a community in which people could have a conversation about the Victoria's Secret fashion show, about Black Friday, et cetera. We've announced a partnership with the Sacramento Kings, working into sports. And we're announcing tonight as well that we're partnering to bring this experience into politics as well. And so imagine an experience in which you have a voice. And so as a company, Frankly has a vision to enable people to talk about what matters to them where they are. So instead of having to go download the Facebook app or the Line app or the WeChat app, no matter where you are and whatever your interests are, you can have the conversation right there.
That's big. That's pretty big. Yeah, give him a hand. Whoa. It's certainly a new way to think about, chat. It's certainly a new way to think about your own app. Because what I think Harrison is sharing with us is, if you're working on a solution right now, if you're currently working on a mobile app, it will probably add value to have chat as part of it, to where your constituents in this case, or your customers, or people that you're going to be connecting with, can literally have a voice in what you're doing. So I think, if you could, maybe you can talk about how we can make money.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, the way we look at it is, think about the world as it existed that we grew up in. Everyone knew that content was king, and dollars followed content, right? The biggest brands in the world, think Coca-Cola, think Nike, think Victoria's Secret now, all of them built a brand around content, right? And Victoria's Secret became a content powerhouse with their fashion show, right? And that was a media event. And so money used to be driven because these brands needed to push their message out there. And all of that money, billions of dollars, were spent in kind of propping up those brands. And what happened, we asked ourselves this question at Google every day, was how the hell did Facebook and Twitter get those same brands who only sit in mindshare as their only kind of thing, their product is mindshare, how did they get them to spend billions of dollars propping up another mindshare competitor in Facebook and Twitter for free? Right? And so what we've seen is that money gets spent because people need awareness, and ultimately what they need is engagement. And that's what people have lost a little bit today, is that they see the vanity metrics on Facebook and Twitter, and they take that and they try to see that as their broadcast medium. But the engagement on Facebook today is less than 6% of organic discovery for any brand. So you might have 40 million followers, but who's actually seeing your posts? The engagement on a Facebook fan page that has over 100,000 likes is 0.14%. And so no one's engaging with your content, and these brands are today having to start paying Facebook for the customers that they brought over to Facebook. So this is a market that had billions of dollars spent moving your customers over to another platform, and today, that least social community is charging you rent to access your customers again. And so how we'll make money is that we're gonna bring that community back to the brands, back to the app developers, and that billions of dollars they spent to build up their brand before, and now that they've given away to Facebook and they have to rebuild, we'll share in that with them. Because
Right on.
yeah. So
You'll get a chance to ask questions and make your statements in just a moment.
that's exciting. We think that, it's what Google did to the web, democratizing information. We're democratizing social interaction.
So we've got a lot of talented people here that have a lot of great ideas. We've got entrepreneurs. We've got people with a lot of different skills. We've got Ben here, who's a data wonk. Oh, by the way, we have Will Cosgrove here, who's from Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer's office. Will, could you raise your hand or stand up or something? So when you talk about civic engagement, certainly our electives need to obviously have this application. But like I said, there's a lot of skilled people here, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of smart people here. So how would you, let's sort of segue the conversation into entrepreneurialism for a moment. And can you give us sort of your top 2 or 3 tips on how you can raise $50 million?
A winning smile, yeah. No, so raising money is, it can be an art, but the biggest thing that you have to see is a pain point and somewhere that a return can be made. And so I think that storytelling is that thing, and why it's so important to have a community in which you can practice that. And as a fundamental value of what our company does too is that having a voice and being heard is the absolute fundamental requirement to getting anything, whether it's traction and customers, or it's getting funding, or support, or talent. And so I think having that story is one thing. You can be as talented as you want. You can have an amazing idea. You can have even a great product. But if you can't articulate what that product can do and how it can disrupt some market and take some money away from something else, then you have nothing. Right? So number one would be to have your story. And number two is to find a way for that story to be heard, right?
So I'm going to go a little tougher,
Okay.
all right? So there's been a lot of conversation about diversity in technology. You work out in Silicon Valley, so you probably see it with your own eyes in terms of the representation of women or the representation of African Americans or Hispanics. And that sort of carries over into, as we develop businesses, trying to access capital. So how do you sort of see that impediment in some ways?
Yeah. No, and that's why I got so interested in what Silicon Harlem is doing, because I really do believe in the power of community to help to drive and kind of change that. Right? You need allies out there, and it's something that I want to contribute with. And I know we announced this morning that I'll be joining the advisory board of Silicon Harlem to help bring.
I was going to announce that, but
Sorry, my bad. Pretend you guys didn't hear that. But I think it's supporting each other. And I think that's what something that's fantastic, and the energy that you feel in Silicon Valley is that everyone's kind of in the same boat, right? It's raising their Series A, raising a seed round, testing out prototypes. And the number one thing you learn as an entrepreneur is don't be in stealth mode, right? Don't hide your idea to yourself. Don't build that thing. Talk about it to literally everyone that will listen to it. Because your idea is not unique. I guarantee you, no matter how amazing you think your idea is, 1,000 other people have thought of it today. And so sharing your idea, talking about it, and then helping each other, right? Everyone in here, super talented people, really good connections, really good ideas, facilitating that together and creating some really good things that get really good traction, and spreading your voice together, I think is a way that you can start to make an impact and show that, here in Harlem, you have so many talented people with really, really good skill sets and experiences. And together, you can build some really cool things that get noticed. And once you get noticed, like I said, then you just tell your story because you're being heard.
So we're going to, Bruce, did you want to add anything at this point?
Now, I'm here listening and enjoying the engagement, and I see that this audience really has a lot of questions and wants to become a part of this conversation. So
Well,
I think
we're gonna definitely open it up to you guys. I got a few more questions, but I'm gonna ask my team to come up here for a moment, Michaela and Alexandria, because you're gonna work the mic for me. So if you guys have a question, raise your hands, and we will bring the mic to you. Please introduce yourselves and keep your questions concise. My man, we've got one right here.
Oh, how you doing? Thank you. It was Harris, right?
Harrison.
Harrison. Okay, I apologize. Harrison. My name's
Ford.
Dan. I'm actually CEO of a music tech startup, a social media service for music artists and professionals to connect, because the music industry still lives in the Stone Age.
Yep.
So basically, I want to ask you, because I'm at the stage right now where I'm developing the initial minimum of our product after interviewing hundreds of people, right? Tested wireframes, and I want to ask you, how would you suggest that, let's say you're on a tight budget, right? And you develop at least like a minimal, let's say, design, but if you can go out there and sign up a certain amount of people, let's say if you sign up like 500 people, right? And at this point, I have a network, investors and everything, and I have advisors, right? Like what I realize is I need to raise money at this point, right? In order to continue, in order to develop the product, the rest of the minimum of our products. How would you suggest I approach them? They're like, I'm going to use a story for sure. I have a story to go in there and say, listen, I'm a music artist, and this is why I want to make it like. I heard from certain investors that the key, what they told me is that they want you to have a referral, like a reference that brings you in there. Like even if it is a great product, they usually want like someone that can vouch for you. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's common. I mean, this is true in everything, right? You want someone to validate. So, I mean, they get pitches every single day. And so I think working around even the VC or the investor and seeing who maybe they've invested in before, getting advice from them, selling those people could be a really good way in.
So going through people that maybe they invested in before, that maybe they just know or friends of, and then just selling the vision to them so that they can take it to them, right? Like sort of like them being the gate.
Yeah, and I would study what companies they've invested in and why they invested, and then learn why they invested in those companies, right? So that's a good kind of proxy for what they might be looking for. And then by learning that, maybe you can get in touch with those people that can make an introduction for you.
So
makes
good
sense.
news, Harrison isn't going anywhere. He's going to be here all night, or most of the night. And so as you get more granular with your questions, he'll be around to sort of address that. More questions or comments? And say your name, and that way it's nice and polite.
I'm Marie Patterson.
Hi, Marie.
Hi. I have a question for you. Your SDK, does it work with iOS?
Yeah, so our technology is cross-platform, and we think messaging should be ubiquitous. So we have a native iOS, native Android, as well as a web SDK. And so you can plug it into a website or a native app, anything that you need. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a question back here.
Hi, my name is Novel Idea, and I'm, amazed at everything that you're talking about, but I'm always concerned about access, and when you don't have big dollars, how do you, access platforms like, like what you're offering? Is this something that's going to be available to only people with, large budgets, or is this something that's going to be available to small companies with, maybe no budget?
That's a great question.
Yeah. So, we're still in the early stages ourselves. So we went through a pivot, and this has been our business focus relatively recently. And so we're working with kind of the friends and family in our network, and we have a longer-term vision of making messaging a ubiquitous concept, because we think that we don't necessarily have to charge for it. We're not interested in kind of pennies up front. There's different situations depending on what your usage is going to be. But for small usage in the longer term, I can imagine that you'd be able to plug into something like this without having to pay anything.
Do I hear that? You might be able to get out of here safely, Harrison.
Hi, my name is Bailey Robinson. If
Bailey.
you're offering it free to consumers, how are you guys actually thinking about monetizing in the long term then?
Sure. Well, so we do have two main kind of monetization tracks. One is in a traditional SaaS-based kind of commodity model. You guys might know like Urban Airship or something like that. And we charge for usage. And so if it's really low levels, it might not matter, but maybe per user or per messages sent, we can charge a fee. But more importantly to us, we'd like to partner in creating incremental revenue. And so as much as we love to talk about engagement and kind of niceties, money is important. And so we want to find a way to help monetize the messaging component that we add in and then share in that upside. And so we can do native advertising, we can do content distribution, we can do virtual goods, which is kind of one of the things that we specialized in, obviously in gaming, of like selling avatars or stickers or even premium packages that you can it's infinitely scalable because it's just bits and bytes. And so from there, I think we can monetize pretty well. The proxies that we look at are out in Asia. So Line and KakaoTalk are two of the most successful messaging companies out there. They each own significant market share of Japan and Korea respectively. And they look at something like about $1.50 per user that they have. So everyone that downloads their app, they get about $1.50 out of each of them because of different proven monetization mechanisms like stickers, like content distribution, and sponsorships and advertising.
We have a question over here.
Hi, my name is Diallo Shabazz. I'm a Senior Director of CTE, Career and Technical Education at the New York City Department of Education. My question is about how did you convince investors and companies that the type of decentralization that you're promoting through your chat platform was really where consumers wanted to go? I remember years ago that NBC, I believe, they launched like a platform where you could click on any word and it took anywhere they wanted to go, and it was kind of a failure. There was really no hub for people to kind of gather around. And so how do we know that people want to chat on the apps that are native to those companies? What if they want to be on a Facebook so they're the people that they want to talk to? What if they don't want to talk to other companies through Chase? I mean, other customers through Chase? What if they want to talk to their friends, people in their lives? So
Yep.
what is that conversation like with investors?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question with a lot of different components to it. And one thing I'll say is that the social graph is what everyone compares this to. And the social graph is a phenomenon that happened in the digital space in which talking to your mom, your girlfriend, your friends was all a thing. And what we realized at Google was we launched a thing called Circles. And the product was almost named Circles because we realized that the average Facebook user has 120 followers on average. I know most people have way more than that. And that stifles communication, right? I have more than one identity. What I'm gonna say here in front of all of you is very different than what I would say in private with my friends, or very different than what I would say in private with my coworkers. And so this idea of needing to contextualize conversations is something that we fundamentally believe in. And so this social graph was a really good movement into community and interaction through digital. But what it left out is this next layer that we think is gonna be even bigger than that, which is what I call the interest graph. And so the interest graph is something that you feel and that you want to talk about. Not because you're friends or that you're related, but because both of you like Victoria's Secret or both of you are Spurs fans. And so the number of those people can be a lot smaller, right? Maybe you don't have 40 million likes on Facebook transferred directly into your app. Maybe you have thousands. But those are thousands of people that want to interact with each other. And I do agree that I think the vast, vast majority of those people won't want to go into an app and communicate, but those fans aren't engaging with you on Facebook anyways, in this example. And so what we see is you can have a 6% or 1% engagement of a large broadcast medium that doesn't have a conversation built out of it, or you can have 100% of the attention of and engagement of a group of people, and we think they're purely complementary. And so that's a big thing that we talk about is the reason why this has happened before, and we're not the first ones to say that you should have owned social communities. The big reason why this happens today more than it's ever happened before is mobile and messaging. Things have changed so rapidly in the last half decade. Like I said, companies blowing up with $10+ billion valuations, is that the interaction model with the digital world has just fundamentally changed even in the last 2 or 3 years. And our investors believe in that as well. And they believe that messaging and mobile, someone needs to take that and disrupt it and kind of blow it up. And we believe that we can do that in a way that empowers the conversation everywhere that people already are.
We have Steve Vinson or somebody else. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well, Steve back there, Steve Vinson, that's a great entrepreneur right there.
Hi, Harrison. Thanks for visiting us from Silicon Valley and making a time investment in Harlem. I just wanted to ask, the city of I'm Chase, sorry, I'm with the Mayor's Office of Technology and Innovation.
Cool.
The city of New York is currently moving toward ubiquitous Wi-Fi, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what opportunities you envision, that sort of infrastructure investment making in terms of innovation in New York City.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a lot of answers to that, but one thing that I go back to is that I think connectivity and broadband is so amazing, right? And this is our thesis for the Google Cloud Platform that we launched too, is that thinking of kind of like the power grid. And back in the day, everyone had a water mill, and every farm was a power supplier, right? They were creating power for themselves until one of Thomas Edison's proteges built the grid system, in which you can centralize power creation, and I kind of outsourced it because you had power wires. And that created so many efficiencies that farmers could focus on farming. And the same thing with connectivity and cloud computing is that now you don't have to be an expert in managing data centers anymore. And you have access to infinite resources through a pipe. And so connectivity, I think, is that thing that unlocks kind of everything. Because Google exists and information is essentially free, if you have connectivity, you can go and access any information about what you want to do. You can access servers that you can host your products on. You can host your product to have tested and get experiences. And you can jump on messaging services and have conversations with other people, right? And communities can happen that way. So I think that getting plugged in should almost be a fundamental right. Being able to connect to the kind of global internet and the digital landscape on your mobile device, on your computer, wherever you are, is a very similar vision to what we have as well, is that everyone should be connected. And just like having an ability to plug a laptop into a power socket that you didn't produce that power and that is kind of centralized, I think computing and bandwidth has allowed us to start doing that as well. which is why Amazon's doing so well with AWS. The Google Cloud Platform is doing well as well. And that's just in a business sense, right? Your core competency doesn't have to be X, Y, and Z anymore. And I think that's a big reason why disruption is happening at such a breakneck speed, is that you can focus on what you want to be good at, and you can outsource other things over the internet to someone else or something else.
Well, is that you over there, Carlton? Oh, so you guys heard me talk a lot about Madiba earlier in this building. The owner and the visionary is here with us tonight. Carlton Brown, if you could just give the people a wave. Other questions or
Yeah,
statements? Okay.
over here.
Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi. My name's Steve, and I'm the CEO and founder of Any Size Deals. We're a Harlem-based startup. We're a networking and lead generation platform for real estate investors. I have a question about raising your round. As an entrepreneur, when you're trying to raise money, should you focus on the amount of cash you need to hit certain milestones, or should you focus on valuation? Like, what do you put a premium on?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really tough question. I would say it depends, but I think valuations can be really, really tricky. And it's something why mentorship is really important to help understand some really complicated terms. But I think valuation is probably, I would devalue that compared to what you need to actually execute, because you're not trying to reach that valuation right now. The cash you need to get to a bigger valuation, I think, is much more important.
We're sitting there.
Okay, we're in the era of disruption.
Don't put it that way.
No, not at all. No, actually, obviously, it's a great honor for us to have Congressman Rangel join us. This is his series, which we call Charlie and Friends, to do these tech talks, and he's done several of them with us. And for me, you know, when it comes to someone who has fought for this community, for jobs, for education, he's fought for our families, and today he's fighting to make sure that this community embraces technology. There was a quote, I don't have it memorized unfortunately, but he said something about, I think, a wart on an elephant's butt. But you can talk about that, Congressman Rangel. So it is with great pleasure that we introduce Congressman Rangel. We've had a pretty robust talk already, but whatever comments you want to make, whatever questions you may want to challenge us with.
I am so impressed that you guys.
Let's give him a hand.
Give yourself a hand. That's what it's all about. This country and this world is on the brink of a new beginning. And like so many things that we have, ignorance of the future sometimes causes people not to want to talk about it. I mean, even cancer, as serious, you can't get more serious than cancer. And people don't want to get it checked out because they don't want to hear anything about anything bad. And not knowing isn't a good feeling. But I'm telling you, it's meetings like this where we all start feeling a little more comfortable about what we don't know. Because this train is moving so fast that the technology every day, and as they come up with it, as someone says, they have technology ahead by the miles, but they're selling it to us by the inches. Every time you buy something, as soon as you get it, they put out something new. I was looking at a member, he had on a watch just when Apple said they had it, and I looked at that thing. It was beautiful. And I knew I couldn't afford it, but every day I said, let me see that watch again. So finally I asked him, how much was it? He said, $250. I said, you must be kidding me. So I went down to Apple's to get my watch. And they showed me these little watches for $500, $5,000, $10,000. I said, my buddy's got a big watch, and it didn't cost $500. Samsung. It looks good, but it's not compatible with my Apple iPad. It's not compatible. So as this thing keeps moving on, with people like Harrison to help us, they just went public. And I think they got about $24 million out of, I don't know what you did. But I'm telling you, this is the beginning of the future where they can allow people to talk about things the same way you would have a conference call. You can have a text call, and people talk with each other, share what you know, and he's here to tell you how to do it. And these meetings are so that all of us can learn. And you guys know that we've gone overseas to get experts. Now we're in Silicon Valley. You play golf too, right? No? I've been reading up on you, but in any event, yeah, I know, you got to check out who's coming to the village, you know, but he has trillions of dollars of information to share with us. And if you can't consume it all, just act like you know what you're talking about, because after he leaves, we'll get together and somebody here will get it. I conclude by saying, some of you may hear that in the Congress there's a controversial TPP, which is the Pacific Trade Partnership. And 40% of all the trade is going to come under this. This trade agreement is nothing without two things: infrastructure and the ability to have a workforce that will be compatible with the technology of the future. And so arguing about trade means nothing. If America is going to remain competitive, we're going to have to learn. And I think that in learning about the future, you may not agree with me, but that takes care of the Fergusons and the Clevelands and a whole lot of other problems we have, because this is one of the most, if you can understand and get your appetite whetted to what we're talking about today, you really don't have time for anything else. So let me thank each and every one of you for taking the time, because each one of you are missionaries in our community. And there are always people that you can bring on board, no matter what stage it is. And pretty soon we'll have our teachers understand that they're going to have to go back to school to keep up with what we hope we can do. So thank you so much. And Harrison, Hannah from my office wants to thank you for the time, the generosity, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I guess you already told them this is a brand new idea.
Well, we're gonna make this announcement right now.
Okay, but it is absolutely
wants to take it from me.
fantastic, the new heights that he's about to take us to.
Go ahead. Take my thunder, Harrison. Go ahead.
Well, I bet you guys can guess what we're doing, but we believe that technology can be ubiquitous and that everyone can have access to it. And so what we're doing is that we're partnering with Congressman Rangel. For the first time, we're going to have a legislature that has a chat app that you can go into and have a direct conversation with him. And so we're announcing it here, and we're testing it out with Silicon Harlem first, so you can even check it out now. The internet's not working for us, so we can't show it, but we're going to be launching this later in June, but kind of a beta for you guys to play around with and see is at siliconharlem.net/chat. And so what we're going to allow for is, like we said, we really believe that everyone should have a voice, and being heard is the most important thing. And so in a democracy, I think we've moved a little bit away from that, in which you're being told a lot of information, and it's all about broadcast. Right? The Facebook model or the Twitter model is that everyone broadcasts, you don't have conversations. And so for the first time, we're going to allow for a kind of direct constituent to representative conversation. We're going to have town halls that way, and we're going to share information. And it's not just between the representative and his constituents or her constituents. It's also about the constituents talking with each other, brainstorming ideas, and kind of understanding what other people are going through, and kind of understanding all of those things. And so we're really, really excited to partner with Congressman Rangel, and we plan to do a lot of really cool things over the next year.
This is good. Very, very strong. A lot of times these type of technologies get launched in the West Coast or in other areas, and for us to be the very first to have this as part of our community, I think is a very strong step in the right direction, and we can lead the way. Again, siliconharlem.net/chat. You can already start playing with it, and we're very proud that Congressman Rangel has agreed to be a part of it, so he'll be chatting directly with us. So with that, Bruce, do you have anything you want to add?
I just hope everyone is feeling how much we're moving forward. We had the Commissioner Mignon Claiborne here 1 month ago, and then this month we're making this sort of announcement. And so what I hope you're starting to see is, as if you go back and have looked at our whole set of historical commitments, how we're moving this thing forward. From the next generation internet, to the innovation economy coming here, to the kind of relationships that we're building. We've been working on this idea of Silicon Valley meets Silicon Harlem for some time now, and so you've now seen that happen. You've seen the commitment of the congressman. So we're starting to bring all these different areas together. We've been to Philadelphia, where we're talking about taking Silicon Harlem to Philadelphia and doing Silicon Philly. But this thing is starting to really pick up steam, and you're a part of it. So what I want everyone to realize is, as you're coming with these ideas, what we're now able to do is move quickly from vision into action. And however it might have taken long to do it before, that is now becoming less and less in terms of an impediment to your ability to make these things happen. And where we're going, just to give you a short glimpse into the future, is we're looking to build an innovation center where everything that we're talking about can be under one roof, where when you come into that space, you know, it's not just once a month you get the Silicon Harlem vibe. You can come in every day and take advantage of that Silicon Harlem vibe and that social network and that commitment to ideas and turning them into viable things that can improve this community. So I want you to just sort of, you know, think about that. I think you feel it. I think the other ideas, you know, it's very early in the spring. Who knows what we're going to announce and make happen as we move into the summer. But we're basically moving on an incredible upward curve.
All right, so thank you, Bruce. Well, we've got just a few more minutes that we're going to spend, but we have,
Hold
I believe we have.
Hold it just a
I'm
minute.
sorry, go ahead, Congressman.
No, when we start talking about family and you mention Magna Mignon Claiborne, her daddy is Jim Claiborne, and he's a congressman from South Carolina, and they're hooked up to Sylvia's from South Carolina. So it's all in the family when she comes here, but there are more South Carolinians on Lenox Avenue around Sylvia's, so that when the commissioner comes here to visit, she's really coming home, and she enjoyed every minute of being here.
Can we have Ryan Leslie come here? And we have a question from Doug, I believe. Doug, you want to introduce yourself? I think Ryan went back there. If we can grab him and have him come in. Go ahead, Doug.
Douglas Holloway. I commend you, Clayton, and Congressman and Harrison and Bruce for all the groundwork that you've done to bring this. But you know, as you know, Clayton, I've spent my career in the television business. And if you look at the television business, whether it's broadcast television, whether it's cable television, satellite television, or telco, we are not owners. Okay? We are not owners.
I feel a sermon coming on. Come on, brother.
And, you know, it's been recently exposed that in Silicon Valley, we are not owners. In Silicon Alley, we are not owners. In the Boston corridor, we are not owners. And the reason, one of the reasons, it's not for a lack of idea, it's not for a lack of talent, it's not for a lack of education, but the primary inhibitor that we have to be participants is access to capital. You know, the banks, the venture capitalists, the private equity firms don't invest in minorities, blacks, Hispanics, and women, particularly Hispanic, and black women. Okay, and that's why we're not in Silicon Valley. And really, when we talk about the help that we need access to capital in large amounts. You can raise $50 million, but I don't know of another black person in this room or a Hispanic in this room that probably would get the same look. So if you can really help us bring in capital.
Well, Congressman?
When you say help us, am I to make the assumption that there is a plan that is funding is being sought and that it's been rejected? Because for 85 years, I've heard about us, but I know since you complimented us for bringing you this far, that there must be some experience that you've had recently where a plan has been put together, been presented for funding, and has been rejected.
I would like to ask for a raise of hands of those entrepreneurs in the room.
No. I'm just saying that you appear to have the expertise in what we need, and no one can challenge that. But, you know, you can't fund an idea. You got to fund something that's there. And quite frankly, sometimes with some of the programs that we have, believe it or not, you have to be rejected 3 times by the regular financing area to be eligible for minority financing. So what plan did you have that you've been turned down on? Because that's my job to make certain that every stage that you're in, that we're able to help.
Well, I'll just say this, Congressman. I have been in the media business for 40 years.
I've been in the congressional business for 46 years.
And I have been turned down on funding on multiple
When is the
ventures.
last time you've been turned down? Because I can't go back 36 years.
Last week.
I turned them down.
That wasn't the first time. So.
I know, but that certainly wasn't a strong last week. But listen, let's not have a public debate. I got your point. You're 100% right. But we have to take it one step further, and that is to make certain that we have a proposal. You know, I'm not putting Harrison on the spot, but there's a whole lot of people that are not willing to invest that damn sure would help us to get a program that looks good and that we can, you know, can stand the test. And when you have something like that, believe me, 46 members of the Congressional Black Caucus and friends in the FCC and a president that is more friendly than most, it just has to be, it's got to cut the mustard. And once we have that, then I'm not going to say I can pick it up, but there's enough weight in Washington for someone to say, why isn't this funded? My problem is I don't have this disc. And that doesn't go for you. I'm taking advantage of you to get my message out to everybody that you really got to have a plan. And sometimes it's expensive even getting the plan together, much less get up to the point where it's been rejected. And that's where meetings like this can help.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily in the funding, but to be able to say where we can go to put something together. And just because we're a minority doesn't mean our thoughts have to be restricted to minority thinking. We're talking about universal thinking. but we have to have something. And hell, I could have been president, but you don't know how many damn times I've been rejected. You know?
Well, the good news is, as we heard earlier, we have a great talent in Harrison Shih, who has penetrated Silicon Valley, has been all over the world, has raised money in various countries, and has agreed to be a part of Silicon Harlem. So we're going to get this information into everybody's hands and make sure we get a fair shot. I want to quickly...
www.frankly.com.
There
Check
you
it
go.
out.
And we have a very special guest here who was able to join us. Some of you might recognize him, and I might be part of the team. We all look like, yeah, we're ready to go. Anyway, so, and Harrison obviously is good friends as well, but Ryan Leslie, if you don't mind, Ryan, let's give him a hand for joining us. If you could quickly talk a little bit about your platform. I'm very impressed with the way you're approaching sort of your craft and how you're building a community around your craft. So if you could talk quickly about that, and Harrison, if you have anything you want to add, then we can sort of wrap up.
Just to set context, because we've been talking about this, is Ryan's a good friend, and we've been working kind of side by side for a little bit because he sees the world very similarly to how we see it at Frankly. So everything we talked about today about direct fan engagement, about building engagement models that you can monetize later, this is a thing that Ryan lives every day, I mean personally, as well as with his new company. And so Ryan's a really good partner to us and someone that I respect a lot and have learned a ton from for how we can build a model that actually works for celebrities, for brands, and for kind of other influencers.
First of all, it's just so encouraging to see everybody in this room tonight. Just to give you some context, I moved to New York City in 2003. Graduated from Harvard. I was senior at Harvard. Thank you. I see I got a supporter over there. Thank you so much. Right. So was a senior at Harvard at 19 and decided I wanted to do music. And you know, the hotbed of doing music was the city of hustle, the city of opportunity. And I actually moved to 136 between 7th and Lenox. And that's where I cut my teeth. And actually, I forced everybody that I was working with as a producer to actually come to my one-bedroom apartment on 136 between 7th and Lenox. Quick story, I actually convinced Usher to come up there, man, and people saw the SUV pull up in front of the building, and by the time he came out from doing the session, we had like 70 people outside the front of the, outside the front. But when Harrison told me yesterday, it was just yesterday actually, when he told me yesterday that there was an initiative to begin to build the foundation for what would empower us and enable us to get access to the capital that this gentleman was talking about, I told him that I wanted to be here and I wanted to be a part of it. Not just because I feel like I represent the spirit of Harlem and the hustle of Harlem, but also just because in the last year and a half, I was fortunate enough to basically be adopted by Silicon Valley. Two luminaries, one by the name of Ben Horowitz, and really his lovely wife, Felicia Horowitz, who said, look, Ryan, you got to go around and tell your story because you actually were able to penetrate the world of Silicon Valley investment. And so I'm here today to actually let everyone know that a guy that started, came from Harvard, went to the music industry, taught himself how to code on Code Academy, right? Went to Code Academy, taught myself how to code, built a solution to solve a problem and pain point that I had, was able to go and convince people to give me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to continue to scale this so that I could actually empower and also be an example to other young entrepreneurs, man. So when I speak at colleges, when I speak at high schools, and I ask kids, hey, what you want to be? And they say, oh, I want to be just like you. And I say, okay, well, the way to get there is, as my parents taught me, is education and hard work and doing what you need to do so you can make it and do it right. And if you feel like there is a door that's being closed, if you feel like there's a window that's barred up, then it's possible if you find the strength, if you find the perseverance, if you find the hustle, if you find the passion within you to make a change, it's possible to do it. And so, when I wanted to build my application, I went to go and talk to big development firms, and they told me, you know, tens of thousands. And then the actual the quotations that I received back for trying to build this platform got all the way up into the hundreds of thousands. And I said, you know what? I think I could teach myself how to do this. And I sat there and I learned how to do it. And I'm here today because I believe that I believe in the collective power of networking. I believe in the collective power of people who feel like their time is now. I believe in the collective power of ideas. There's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And so I believe that tonight, as we sit here, as we exchange ideas, as we exchange the challenges and struggles that we feel like we're facing, I feel like this congregation, this ability to come together and say, look, we do want to make a difference. That's the first step, you know, and everybody, if you start doing your research on Silicon Valley, you know about a guy named Peter Thiel, and he wrote a book called 0 to 1. And always, in any great idea, most people, they stop themselves before they take the first step. And tonight, I'm very proud, I'm very excited, I'm very honored to be here as part of that first step. I'm Ryan Leslie, thank you.
All right. And you're a part of Silicon Harlem. That's the bottom line. You're a part of Silicon Harlem. As you know, we have a web series to be shown here immediately following. If you have questions, we'll take 2 questions right now, and you can ask Ryan or Congressman Rangel or Harrison or Bruce or I.
I have a question.
All right.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay.
Let's get right to it.
Yes.
One, and then one after that.
My name is Miss McClarity, and I'm born and raised here in Harlem in a single-parent home. And first, I came here to publicly thank Mr. Leslie. I started my own not-for-profit 10 years ago here in Harlem, and I met Mr. Leslie, and he actually came to speak to 500 students at Bread and Roses High School without asking me for a penny or a dime or knowing me at all. So I wanted to publicly thank you for helping me for doing that. And then secondly, I want to not leave without having Mr. Leslie and Mr. Harrison's contact information, because I'm going to volunteer as an educator. I'm presently working on my doctoral degree, and many people say people in Harlem that was raised in a single parent is not going to make it, but I'm living proof in educational leadership. And I want to be a part of this team.
You don't want my information?
No, I don't. I want Mr. Harrison, Mr. Leslie,
absolutely,
and Mr. Charles Rangel, and then I'll take you out to lunch, but I want to sit with them for sure.
Absolutely. So if you have a pen, a pad, if you want to pull out your phone, this is a super cool moment because it's also kind of an example of the technology that I built. So my phone number, my direct cell phone number, every single person in this room could take it down or send me a text or whatever. It's 915-600-6978. I'll give it to you again, 915-600-6978. And what you'll notice about the technology that we built is the fact that if I were to try to stay here and meet every single one of you personally, it would probably be longer than I have time to do this evening. But what my phone understands, and I built a layer of technology on top of my phone, what my phone knows is if someone texts me for the first time, it will hit you back and it'll ask you to add yourself to my phone from your phone. So literally, I will have the contact information of everyone that's in this room this evening, and you can feel free to continue to reach out to me, and Harrison as well, and we're going to be building a platform on the Frankly infrastructure to allow us not only to communicate one-to-one, but also communicate as a group. So that's my information, 915-600-6978. If you didn't get it, you follow me on Twitter. My number is very, very clearly displayed there because I do definitely want to be in touch with all of you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Our last question right here.
I just want to make a quick announcement that people should be aware of. I made it at 2 meetings ago, and that's speaking of connectivity and all the things that and possibilities that could come out of that. there's a broadband summit in Albany on the 11th and 12th of June, and it has to do with everything broadband, high speed, teaching best practices for high speed networks, municipal engagement in broadband. And one of the things that came out of this meeting, I went back after Clayton told me about data centers. I went back and talked to the people that's putting on the conference. And so as an appendage to that, we're going to do a whole section on data centers as part of the broadband summit. It'll likely be on the 12th, but just stay tuned. The website, just in case you guys want to take it down, it's www.nysbroadband.ny.gov. Again, www.nysbroadband.ny.gov. And that's 11th to 12th of June here.
Thanks, Art.
In Albany at the Desmond Hotel.
That's Art Ware. Thank you, Art. Right? All right, so wasn't quite a question. So we'll allow for one more, and then we really have to transition out. I can't see. Is that someone waving their hand back there? Oh, okay. I didn't think I distinguished that, but okay.
And when you send your text message to me, just so I'll be able to find, because I do get a lot of text messages, if you would just actually send me another text that says Silicon Harlem, so then that way when I do my search tonight, I'll be able to see everyone that I met here tonight. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, Mr. Leslie? Me personally, I'm a musician that plays multiple instruments and I sing, so you are one of my idols because I love what you have to bring to music, and your music actually shaped the way that I play and I do things. And one of my questions for you is, what was your first step in learning how to code? Like, where did you go to learn how to do that?
Yeah.
Good question.
Great question. So if you have an idea and you feel like technology can help you solve a problem that or a pain point that you're feeling, there are a lot of different places, but I ended up learning how to code at codeacademy.com. So you just go to codeacademy.com, you pick a language, and they'll take you through the steps of learning that language. And really, that's a universal language. I mean, what you'll notice is that if you search any website, doesn't matter in what language it is, if you look in the back end, you're lucky because you have a head start. Most all code, or I think all code is in English, right? Right?
Yeah.
All code that's running on the internet, all the languages are in English, but you just need to understand the different commands. But I would say go to codeacademy.com if you want to start. All right?
All right, we have to end there. I just want to thank everyone for coming out, everyone for your great questions. But let's give the panel a big round of applause. It's quite an honor. A superstar panel. Harrison Shih, Ryan Leslie, the great Congressman, Charlie Rangel, and Bruce and myself. We are very appreciative of everyone's help. So the web series is going to start. You can stay and watch that. Other people are coming in. And thank you. Please continue to check out siliconharlem.net. We're going to try to get Ryan along. Harrison's already agreed to be a part of our advisory board. We may have to talk to you about that as well. All right, very good. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
I'm really excited to fix that. You really got over there, man. You're beautiful.
Thank you so much.
One thing to have yourself